All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second
Yeah.
additions.
Okay. Go ahead, Jen.
Okay, I have several additions. One is, and I always pronounce this wrong, and I apologize ahead of time. We received a letter from Roger from the Wayshay Friendship Center. It was a response before our next board meeting. I think it's a really important letter to have on the agenda, and I have copies for those. Can we do this one at a time, or all three of them?
No, I think we'll do them one at a time,
Okay.
to give you the best chance of getting them
And this
approved.
is a letter asking for support for long-term funding for the BC Friendship Centers. So that's my first addition.
Okay, somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those, and it needs to be unanimous to add these things, so all those in favor? That is carried.
I have copies
Okay,
for everyone.
Correspondence.
Thank you. Put that under correspondence.
And
Thank you,
I have
Councilor,
copies
making
for
copies.
members of the public also, if anybody wants some, so. Lindsay, do you want that one? And we've got that. The second one is under reports from, okay, I've lost it here, board appointed bodies for community structure. I am the VISTA rep, and I had a VISTA meeting on Saturday, and I have a small report I'd like to add to the agenda, please.
Okay, I would like to apologize to you for not including that. I forgot that you were going this weekend.
That's okay, that's why it's on addition.
Okay, somebody like to second that?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you.
Okay, and the third one is also a letter under correspondence, and it's from Steve Stanley, our CDA president, regarding the BC system, whatever that thing is called, BC system. And the reason being on the agenda is I'm also a provincial councillor. We have a provincial council meeting before our next board meeting, and this is also a hot topic, and it was also a topic, part of my report from VISTA conference, so I think the timing is really good to have that on the conversation.
Okay, somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? I'm just, when did we receive that?
Actually, I received it today, and it's just because it's both the report that I'm putting up with BC's and also the provincial council report, and I've got copies of everyone, also the letter that came out today.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And that is
And
carried.
I have copies for everyone also.
Any other additions?
No, I think 3 is enough for me,
I have.
and thank you very much.
Okey dokey, have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, yeah, lots of seconders. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Alrighty, so report on in-camera meetings. Just like to rise and report, and we'll have further information with regards to this in our next item. That at the board meeting, the in-camera meeting on June the 28th, 2010, the board voted, I'll just read the motion that we passed. It was regularly moved and seconded that the board not proceed with phase 2 of the operational review. Further discussion on that in just a moment. So Len, you want to go ahead with old business?
Yeah, I did a very short briefing note on page 5 about how the unit had possibly the wrong title. I probably should have put something about it being our response to the original document rather than phase 2. So that's really what I'm looking for here, is to have this referred to the finance committee. The document itself has, valuable information contained in it. It still deserves further conversation. So I'm sure that I'm looking forward to having us to discuss the document in detail. So there's something other than sort of going ahead with phase 2 of the board would like to pursue. So it would be a chance for us to bring that back.
Any trustees want to?
I'm just wanting to clarify my understanding of that motion, and our discussion is that we were not going to continue to proceed with a contract to do the work of phase 2, but that we were going to refer it to district staff to look at those recommendations and come back to us, and which I totally support. I think we have all the capacity that we need, so I'm glad to see your recommendations, and I know you're already moving on quite a few of them, and I think that's a great way to proceed.
I'd like to just check that everyone has the same understanding, or the trustees have the same understanding as Sheila. Tom?
Yes.
Janice?
Yes.
Me, I do. Danny? Green? Fran? Okay, good, thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment? No, I agree also that this is a good move on our behalf. One of the recommendations that was going to go to phase 2 was to do a comparison between our district and a few other districts of similar size to sort of check out our staffing levels. And it's interesting, Len said this in the past, that sometimes it's apples and orange comparison because of how people record their staffing from district to district. And actually this was, pardon me, an issue also raised by the Auditor General when they did the audit on the Vancouver School Board report. So it would be quite expensive, I think, if we sent someone to a few other districts to investigate what their staffing levels are, and I'm not sure that it would really bring us meaningful information. I don't think Sprott Consulting sort of, that wasn't fully understood by them how this staffing works between districts. So I think we have an obligation to be fiscally responsible with the money that we expend, and perhaps this wouldn't have been a good use for our money. So I look forward to having the Finance Committee bring back some more recommendations with regards to those items. Jan?
Move to Finance Committee for recommendation back to the board at the next regular board meeting, October 22nd, 2010.
Anyone like to second that?
Second.
Jan? Okay, any further discussion on this? Sheila?
Well, as we move it to the Finance Committee, I'm actually thinking of it in terms of the Finance Committee then working with our staff around. There are areas of operational improvements that were identified, and it's a natural place for staff to report the progress they're making to that committee, but that we're not just sending it to another committee to sit, but we're actually engaging in a process of taking action or reviewing and identifying whether maybe action's not needed, but that we are giving a mandate through the Finance Committee to our staff to move forward on improvements that came out of that operational review. So we're going to use it. That's what I'm hoping this motion means.
So that would not be my take on it. The School Act is pretty explicit. Committees of trustees can't make any decisions, and that would include committees of the board. And so 3 trustees are what sit on the Finance Committee, so they would not be able to direct staff with respect to that. But they could have a good discussion, a fulsome discussion, I might say, with Len Epps there, and bring that back to us and perhaps present that in detail at our next meeting. And then we're all informed and can vote on what the recommendations are.
Okay, so if I could continue then with a follow-up to that. In the past, we've had situations where staff, couldn't do something because they hadn't been directed to do it. Does that mean that we actually need to make a motion right now to direct staff to use their best judgment in following up on those operational ideas and reporting them to us through the Finance Committee? Or can we just assume that they have the go-ahead?
The 2 items that were contemplated for phase 2, do you mean? Or
well, there were many recommendations in that report, which I'm hoping staff are acting on.
They are. Do you want to give a...
Well, certainly, even as those items are being discussed with the consultants, they created that first report. We always look at it as a document that would be something self-improvement that we do. Those things that we could do easily, we've done. Those things that may take longer, we'll try and develop plans. And that's what I would do back to the Finance Committee. Basically, here's what we've done. It's easy, it's quick. Here's the things that are near term, and then maybe some rationale about how we might move forward on those things that might take a bit longer.
So you've got the mandate you need. Great.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And Len, would you like to speak to the next item?
Here's the closure process. So back in May, the superintendent at the time, Tinney, did give a briefing out to the board, which I think was discussed later at the Education Committee. These were just the points in it that I pulled that was a suggested process. So basically, I just took that information, mimicked it, and put in just some potential dates. Those are all to be set by the committee. This is committee work, but I just want to make the board aware of sort of what it might look like. And then, of course, begin this whole process, we need to enact a policy 3050, permanent school closure, and everything else will follow that. Start down for the process off.
So any questions at all for Len with regards to the school? Few questions before we move to a motion on this. Okay? Want to make a motion?
I move that the board enact permanent school closure policy 3050 and board regulation 3050R1 to consider the closure of Brooklyn Elementary School.
Okay, you want to open discussion, Jeff?
I think that we did an extensive consultation last spring. We've heard from the community. It's time to move forward. We directed staff to come back with us with a process. They've done that, and I think it's time to move forward, and the parents want us to act, and I think we need to do so. So I'm going to move forward on this difficult decision of looking at school closure, because no school closure process is ever a positive process.
Okay, anyone else? Don't see any hands, so I'm gonna say something. I'll give you next. Just a few comments with regards to the process. I see obviously that we've contracted with someone to do the closure process, and I think that normally I would have difficulty supporting such a thing because you know, in the context of having had to make some really difficult cuts in the last year in the school district, that it's difficult for me to see us sort of expand the board office. However, as I sit here tonight, I'm looking at new faces and new people and new roles, and so I think that maybe I could stand it this time around. I don't think I would be a fan in the future of contracting board office work out, but probably in this case I could live with it. With respect to the dates anticipated for various meetings, every one of the dates there as an education committee meeting or a policy advisory committee meeting or a board meeting, and those should not be considered. The board will have some trustees sit on these committees, and so the committee will need to find some different dates. Tom?
So to build a bit on what you said, I guess I go beyond sort of can live with it. I think having Marianne McCray participate is an excellent idea, and I support it 100%, and thank you for giving that your consideration. I also don't agree with Trustee Barr around the dates. The dates are up for the committee to set, and the board will work around that. This is not our process. It's part that we bear witness to, and in the end make a decision around. So I think we will deal with what ought to deal with whatever dates the committees come up with and adjust.
Just take note, Tom, that those are our board meeting dates that we have on the fourth Tuesday of the month, and the Education Committee on the second meeting of the month that we're obliged by our board procedural bylaw to have. Anyone else like to make a comment? Sheila?
I'll just echo Tom in saying that I think that I'm supportive of this process. The recommendations coming forward from senior management, when we were happy to appoint Acting Superintendent Elwood, we gave her our assurances that we would support her and support her decisions and give her the resources that she needs to make this a success. So she is putting forward this proposal after due consideration. I would like us as a board to hold with that commitment that we made to her, and I see no reason not to.
Anyone else want to speak to this? Okay, so the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And Sherry, you'll be speaking to the next one?
Partnership that we already have at your point. They have asked that we would consider the mention of a portable path, banning copies of the house and living for the Mary family, reaching out to the support from Daniel itself, the staff, and it is the recommendation of staff that we support the request for the location of portable. They have a portable to move, and we would be asking for the consideration of the request for them to look at portable on the side of Daniel to offer continued daycare for some of the things we're talking for staff and the community in that area.
Does anyone have any questions for Sherry on this? Graham?
So a couple questions. One question, I'm trying to figure out how to reconcile this with the application from the Boys and Girls Club for portable on-site at Aspen, just in terms of figuring out the timing, because it seems as if we had heard about that one possibly along the same time frame, and just wondering if there's something different about this one versus that one, that this one is on the agenda versus the other.
I think that I can answer that in that the direction from, I think it was an education conversation with a number of trustees there, was that each individual request should be dealt with individually, and this one actually started slightly beforehand, and the Boys and Girls Club had requested an opportunity to speak at Education Committee, and the way the calendar followed, they weren't able to get them until September. So we've been directly able to deal with these individually, and this one was moving through a process that they did not request an opportunity to speak to the Education Committee. So it really is a very well to you, and I would suspect that if we're dealing with them individually, the next one to be applicable for spring before it gets to the
Any other questions? Tom?
And I apologize if I've missed it. Is there a length of time that's been proposed that's being asked as a guarantee for how long this will exist?
Not from this board, that was Boys and Girls.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Green?
Yeah, I guess the questions that I have relate to the Women's Girls Clubs and sort of the hoops that they've been jumping through for us. I know that they surveyed the community to see if there's a need there. They talked to Pat, et cetera. I'm just wondering, what's the community survey, door-to-door, house-to-house, that they did ask?
For this one?
Yeah.
I believe not. We've never, as a board, as far as back as I can see, has never requested that. Some people go to that, but it's never been a request from us for them to do that.
Okay. Because how do we know that there's actual need there and we've done that information? This just makes so much sense.
My understanding that they provided us, this has been on the book for about a year and a half, and they did provide us an initial request, some feedback that led them to believe. I think they've done some kind of survey work that there was a need in that community.
I don't remember that. I remember there's a new news and that was out of the airport. Is there a pad already there? Are we talking that we have to pour cement? Look, I don't understand what that part of it.
Through the chair, yes, we have a spot for it. We just have to prep the site with that.
By prep the site, are we talking pouring concrete or?
No,
Just
like that, making sure the ground is ready to work with that foundation.
Okay, Danny?
I understand there's a number of parents because they deal with two different age groups and they're basically a similar society or part of the same society, that they would like to keep the two together rather than have parents drive out to the airport first and then down to Vanier to drop another one off and pick them up in reverse. So a lot of it's convenience and
Janice?
Okay, basically piggyback what Danny says. I read the letter, and there is a need for it, and it's supported by the community at Vanier, and the community of Vanier is very supportive of daycare, supporting students going to school, so I think this is a positive thing for us to be, supporting daycare for students. So and knowing the area quite well, I think there's a place for it, and I think that we should move forward with it and treat each one separately. This is a different group, and I think we move forward on it. They've been out for this for a while, so it's time to hopefully to give them the support they need.
So just if you can just confine this part to any questions that you have for staff with regards to this report, and then we'll move to a motion on it.
Okay.
Anyone have any questions?
I'll speak on the motion.
Wait, okay. Fran and Green.
Is this part of a long-term contract or short-term contract? And as is, how much notice is required, just in terms of thinking of School District 71 needs, if we ever needed that location?
Maybe I won't.
Yeah.
It's a bit awkward for me.
Do you want Chuck to speak to this?
Well, I'm not sure who remembers. It's about the policy. The policy.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Right now, it's a 1 year notice. It's just right here.
Okay, Corinne, do you have a
Okay,
question?
so then my other question that I forgot, is this, I know that there's talk about Boys and Girls Club going into airport as well, there's a package request that they come up with a survey, and I know that Boys and Girls Club is often mindful of the impact that they will have on surrounding daycare, so I'm just wondering if that has been considered in this application. Well, is there other daycares in the vicinity that may be impacted by this group coming in?
Sherry?
I think that, my understanding is that their focus would be the continuum of care connected to the current daycare at the Teddy's and Tots. And so so this is going to be for students so that started at the Teddy's and Tots and continue on. So their audience is the target audience, and the feedback they've gotten is from that audience, that they would like that continuum of care. It's rather unique, the request, in that it would then allow, particularly for some of our students who access the daycare as they go to school, if they move the meeting as their child gets older, or they've got more than one child, that they don't need to go off. So they have had that part of the conversation that the bulk of the spaces is filled by the place and tots as they go older. So some of those spots are filled by parents in that community who would like the opportunity not to have to leave the Teddy and Tots program, leave the Vanier campus, and find daycare outside their community.
Okay, questions?
It's a comment, but it's about the process. It's not about the motion. My understanding in thinking that we have a policy which specifies that these cases will be dealt with case by case isn't that the board will deal with them case by case, that it's that staff will consider them case by case as to whether they fit into the policy. They will come to us with a recommendation. I don't want to have to get into all the details of all of this. If we bring a recommendation saying it fits our policy, I think it's inappropriate for us as staff members to be dealing with the minute details of individual proposals. I would like us to move on to the motion.
Make a motion.
I'd love to make a motion that we request, we support the request for Today and Tomorrow Learning Society for portable pad rental at Vanier and direct staff to make the appropriate agreements.
Second.
Got a second already. Any discussion on this? Okay, I'd like to say something. I am prepared to support this motion. However, I just would like to point out that we just passed a policy on June the 22nd, 2010 with respect to this, and I don't believe that we actually did follow the correct process in coming to bring this to the board this evening. It says that the agreement is generally based on the principal's discussion with the school staff and the school parent advisory council, and on a written survey of parents to determine the extent of local need for the program. The letter from Vanier stated that only the chair of the parent advisory council was consulted with regard to this. So I think, strictly speaking, the process wasn't exactly followed. However, I've been to many PAC meetings there in the last 5 years, and Trustee Payton has been the PAC chair there for some time in the past, and I do believe that they would welcome this at their school. So even though maybe the process wasn't exactly strictly adhered to according to our policy, I'm still okay with it. Anyone else? Tom?
So I think it's really good that you do point that out and remind us of the policy. I guess how I'd interpret that is this was already in motion. It was something that was well underway here. So I didn't view that as we then superimposed the policy on something that was in motion. So I'm supporting the recommendation.
Anyone else? No question. Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Chair's report, just like to give a really brief report. I don't really need to rise and report on this because everybody sees Sherry sitting there, but on our June 28th in-camera meeting, the board did appoint Sherry to be our superintendent at this time. And thank you very much for accepting our challenge to come and join us here with that new role. Sherry's been in the Nanaimo School District for a number of years prior to this. She's familiar with community schools. She's been a principal to a community school in a rural area in Nanaimo and Cedar. She's got an alternate education background. She's worked in HR. She's done quite a lot of things. So thank you very much for bringing all that experience to support us here. At the same meeting, Sheila Shanahan was appointed to be the assistant superintendent at this time in the district. Sheila joins us from Knives, where she's been for a number of years. And in the past, you came from the Lower Mainland, I think, and we were able to... Victoria. Oh, Saanich. Well, we've managed to steal you away from there, and we're really glad to have you, too. We have Esther Schatz sitting over there as a director of student services, who's been in the district for many years. She's also new in her role, so welcome to you. We have a bit of a new cast, and of course the old hacks sitting over there, Len Ibbs and Alan Douglas and Linda Marie and Chuck Morris. Well, that's my report. Sherry will go to you with the superintendent's report. Thank you.
I'd just like to capitalize the month of September. It is almost over. In many ways, that's a good night for lots of staff. The ministry board is a deadline now for the service. But I'd just like to maybe just do a quick synopsis of September startups for thought. So as we're nearing the end of September, we're pleased to report that schools are up and running with energy and enthusiasm. We have weathered the usual disruptions caused by shifting enrollments and projection forecasts, and schools have settled into configurations that we hope will continue throughout the school year. A slight decrease in our decline projections, as well as the changes that came from families moving, led us to reduce a division at Colbrook Road and to add a division at Queens Elementary. As well, our legislative need to be at or below the provincial aggregate for class size in kindergarten, primary, and grades 4 to 12 necessitated that we add a division to Aspen Park, as well as the need to reorganize divisions in some of our other elementary schools. In secondary schools, projections were admirably on target, and as the dust settled, there are small increases and decreases that see the overall increase in our enrollment as 47 students, the majority of whom are in elementary schools, which is good news for us because we're hoping to have them for a very long time. There were some disruptions in this month, most notably the inconsistency of BCE-SIS, which is a software program supported by a company called Fujitsu. This software is critical in the registration of students and the tracking of student information from one year to another. In secondary schools particularly, this software also manages the timetabling procedures. Like many other districts across the province, BCE-SIS was not operating appropriately. In fact, sometimes so very slowly, or not at all, at peak periods of need. And these problems, although identified and worked on at the provincial level, continue throughout the past weeks, causing concern and frustration for staff. This week has been a bit better. It's only Tuesday. As the service provider continues to seek solutions, and we can only hope that a proactive process will be put in place to reduce the number of issues that seem to occur with heavy usage and at peak periods. Many thanks to all staff, particularly our administrative staff personnel, who have continued to persevere with difficult and time-consuming processes. We also experienced busing difficulties with student busing at the secondary busing level. We are currently looking at the big picture of all of our bus routes, identifying those riders who are courtesy riders as per district policy, and those routes that are required as buses that are for boundary and catchment. We acknowledge that communication should have been better, and we are committed to working towards a revised busing plan that is efficient and effective. And we will ensure that this plan is communicated in a timely manner and appropriately to those people who are involved. The Director of Operations will actually speak to the busing later in the meeting. Across the district, school principals and vice principals have been completing the work required by Bill 33. We will be sending the Bill 33 report to the ministry by October 1st. We will also post that report on the district website, and we will be sending it to trustees and DPAC as required by legislation. Later in the week and before October 15th, the full and complete report will be addressed to the board on the Education Committee Day. Yesterday, our schools were actively involved in planning for the school year, and around the district, school staff were engaged in discussions about opportunities for learning for our students throughout this year and next. As senior leaders, we are continuing to engage staff and the community in beginning conversations about 21st century learning, which will create personalized learning paths for all of our students. This will be an educational focus for us as senior staff this year, and we're excited by the possibilities. And finally, a huge thanks and congratulations. Our congratulations are extended to the CSF as they embark upon the construction of their new school in Comox. I attended the groundbreaking nail hammering ceremony last week and was pleased to see that clearing and the building is well underway. And at this moment, there is a confidence that they will actually meet their projected completion date of September 2011. We are pleased for them and wish them well in their efforts to have a school of their own. The dedication, the hard work, and the commitment of their community has resulted in a building that is rising near the big woods, and we wish them a happy, speedy building when they do that. Finally, a huge thank you to our maintenance staff who worked so tirelessly this summer to paint, renovate, and clean our buildings. They were sparkling when our students returned and staff came in from the summer. We must acknowledge their work and commitment to our students. They are an integral part of what we do in our classrooms, even though they might not see the rewards of student faces in September. And I'll leave off with a mention of our new and exciting endeavor, that full-day kindergarten, which Director Douglas will get later. I think that's enough. So that's my report.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Carrie or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas?
Okay, through you, Madam Chair. I'm really excited about full day K. We have 503 K students registered in our elementary schools. Just for statistics-wise, 161 of those K students are in half-day programs and 342 are in full-day programs. Next year, as a reminder, we will all be in full-day K. There are 35 K classes, or classes that have a K component. And, I get a lot of calls about combined classes. Just so you know, we have 14 K1 classes in our district, and we have 10 K classes. So we actually have more K1 classes than we have straight Ks. The district programs are half-day programs, French immersion, Montessori, and of course, we've had some concerns around Brooklyn and Valley View, so they're half-day programs this year, and will be next year full-day programs. I think I really would like to acknowledge and compliment our teachers and our administrators for working together with our team to make full-day K, get it up, get it running, and we're in the beginning stages. I wanted to say the district has spent significant funds to fund full-day K, and we used a lot of our learning resources money to make sure we had the furniture and the equipment and the resources for those children when they came. We had 21 teachers that attended the 2-day session on full-day K. Wonderful, probably the largest team in BC that was there. So it was really nice to go with that team. Of them, I was the Golden Vale in the group. It was very nice to be there. Our island, as an island, we hosted a full-day K session last May. We have 2 more sessions planned this year, so we'll be bringing our teachers together. In our district, we'll be meeting with our K teachers next week. We're going to be talking about, so how's it going? How was the start up? What's working well? What are our challenges? What are our next steps? Strategically planned it at the end of September so that we get over some of the hurdles of the start up. We have 2 more sessions planned in our district. We have Colin Pano, who's become a leading expert in the province on full-day K, coming to talk to us on October the 7th on play-based learning. So lots of things happening, lots of new learnings that will be happening as we implement full-day K. I'm very happy to say it is happening. Do you have any questions?
Well, I have a comment. In the late August, we had a request from Carol James, the leader of the official opposition, to come to our district to have a look at some things that we were particularly proud of here. And we were very proud to show her the all-day kindergarten classroom at Courtney Elementary School. It was quite beautiful, and the staff were just fantastic there, and thank you very much for helping us out to showcase something that we're very proud of in our district, among many other things. But yeah, thank you.
Alan, under your report, when you're asking, what's the effect on the kids that are going from maybe play school, maybe no schooling, all of a sudden full-day K?
Yeah, we're hearing it's a long day
Yeah.
for some of our little ones, right? And I have heard a few people say, remember when you were in kindergarten and I was in a half-day program? We had a nap. And everybody had a rug that you rolled out, and Miss Sharp said, that's it, it's nap time. And Miss Sharp pulled those blinds in that old school. We all had a nap, whether we had it or not. And I think we all had a little 15-minute nap, even in a half-day program. But I know for some of them it's a long day, but you have to remember for lots and lots of our children, because of the economic situation and both parents needing to work, or just there's one parent with a family, A lot of our children are in daycare from a very young age and they're used to full days. Our focus is on play-based learning, so we're trying to make it really exciting for them and putting in an environment where they're exposed to play.
I'm amazed that you can remember way back when you were in kindergarten.
I was thinking that's where his habit started, was way back then.
I remember mine now. I do want to draw attention to, the attention of the board to the situation of the 2 island schools, because all-day K on the 2 island schools results in 4-way splits for those kids. There are some adjustments. Staff have worked really hard, but these are unique situations, and I'm hoping that the board will support staff to continue to monitor them and make sure that those are good learning situations. I know everybody's doing their best. We told parents before, don't worry about the splits, because that's the Ks go home and the grade 1s have their time in the afternoon, and that isn't the case anymore. So we are asking staff and parents there to really do something that none of the other schools are having to deal with, and they may need more resources, and they may need, they really need a lot of support and understanding. So I do want that on the record, that you guys are all aware of the situation over there. That is, those schools are great. The attention that the kids get is great, but it is very challenging for staff.
Thank you for your comments. It's noted by all of us. But you want to talk about Band 7 now? Is that you too?
Talk to Band 7 for you again, Madam Chair. If you turn to page 13 in the agenda, there is a briefing note, and I just would like to say to you that I took this job very seriously to get Band 7 into our elementary school. And we started the process at the end of June in our postings, and we were interviewing on July the 1st. And through as in the briefing notes, we'll show you we weren't successful in our first. So we reposted and we were successful in our second. We have Band 7 happening in our schools that I've indicated: Miracle Beach, Canadian, Cole-Rob Road, and Cole-Puntledge Park, where the music teacher was qualified to teach band and stepped forward and said, I will do this. And so we already had a pilot there going. And when I saw that we weren't going to be able to fill the job, I thought I need to be a little bit creative and see if I can just expand the barriers a little bit around. Can we get some of these people that are in these schools that are maybe not teaching full time and see if they would entertain picking up a couple of other schools? We're really happy to say that the band teacher from, music band teacher from Queenish, Yolanda Layton, who I met at the game today, doesn't work on Fridays and is going to work in the Claremont schools. And it's nice because they're really close together and she can travel and cover them. They will be getting they'll each get 90 minutes a session in band. Ideally, we were 245s. And Yolanda is she's the band teacher of the school, but also of the Army cadets. And so she's really experienced with what she does. And feels really confident about doing this and making it a good learning experience as well as fun for the kids, because 9 minutes is a long time. So she's working on that, which left us with 2 bands in Valley View not covered. Now, Valley View is a very tight situation. That's why we don't have full day K there. We have this little window of opportunity in the music room not being used, because they don't have a lot of extra space. And I'm not confident that we're going to be able to do something with Valley View, but right now, I'm in the process of a very creative solution for Q-Band, which will use the band. We can pull everything off together from one of the middle schools on the west side, and to offer 2 sessions. Now, they have a block system, and it changes all, and so that's really difficult in the elementary school when we want band on Tuesday and Thursday from 10:30 to 11:30. It won't be that way when you're getting somebody from a middle school that's in a 4-day rotating block. So we're talking about it. It might happen, and if it does, we'll have a new band. But we've done the best we can. And I do have a little story if I can add, and I hope it's not taking too long on this report. I was at Queenish today, and it was bus duty. I was helping the principal get all the children on the bus. 2 children came out with their musical instruments. One had a huge case. It must have had a trombone or something in it. I said to him, I didn't know. I said, what's in the case? He said, it's my musical instrument. I said, could you break it out and play me a little tune? No, he always said, I only have 2 band classes. I said, doesn't matter. He hooked that trombone up, put all the pieces on there, all the kids were waiting in line, and he played that thing like you wouldn't believe, right? You know, a lot of noise came out. And of course, I said, this is incredible, and all the kids in the lineup were giving him a little clap, right? And he was so proud to play. The kid beside him says, I play the alto sax. I can take it out. He had that thing. Hang on, the bus is coming, right? And these kids are pretty excited. And I'm hearing things like, Rob Rose, music teacher, said to me, he comes to school in the morning and there's kids from the band saying, Mr. Riddell, is it okay if we take our instruments out at recess and play? Take them out at lunchtime and play. So I think it feels good, you know? So we've got band happening in our elementary schools. Questions?
I'd like to hear a little bit about numbers, so how many kids are coming into school. And I'd also like, if you could speak a little bit about what the teachers for the other students are doing. Are they being encouraged to have some pretty exciting programs, or are we seeing kids just waiting until band is over? And I'm sure that's not the case, but if you could let us know what the mandate for those other teachers is.
So first of all, for numbers, we said we needed 12 to fly, or we weren't going to have it in school. So we have a range from about 12 to 13, and not more than 30. And so we're in between there. When we received more than 30, which we did at Rob Road and Plumage Park, both of the French immersion schools, we actually added a second section. So they have double, and they have to offer 2 different sections because they have too many. And all the other schools would be in between there. I think it would be probably pretty safe to say somewhere around 18 to 20 seems about right. And I will invite you all to the Christmas concert to see the beginning band shows, and I know that they'll be showcased that evening. You'll want to see it and see how well they've done by Christmas time. In the schools, we met last year, and we talked a lot about the elementary principal as what would be offered in place of this. So a lot of schools are doing like a fine art offering. They might be doing visual arts, some are doing technology, some are doing some other kind of PE type thing, but it's not in place of PE, it's an extra thing. Some are doing some enrichment things, some are, it's a variation. In some places, I talked to a school today where they have 2 grade 7 classes, and so both the children from both grade 7 classes go to band at the same time. Those 2 teachers are left with the children that don't go. They're working together on a number of different things with the group that's left behind. So we've got 2 teachers now working together to design a program for the children. Most are really going to find out, and it would vary in all different schools. And if you would like me to, I could come with a more detailed list at a future meeting if you'd like to hear exactly what they are.
I think it would be interesting, and I just have heard a few concerns. I think it's important that those children are also have a mandate to get some, exceptional learning opportunities during that time. I think people would be interested.
There was a bit of a crunch I heard from one school where almost all of the children went to band, except for about 2 or 3. And then the teacher's like, what am I going to do with just 2 or 3? Visual arts, these big pictures that you have here, something like that, because the intent is never to carry on with the curriculum, and then the children go to band miss it. Because remember, this isn't prep time. This is something that we're doing sort of as another option for children to choose band.
That's a pretty expensive option, so we want some value out of it.
I just want to thank you for the tremendous amount of work that you've done, the school administrators, the creativity shown by music teachers, and given that we didn't really give you much of a head start time as a board, I think you've done a phenomenal job, and so I congratulate you and all the others who participated. Thank you.
We'll give you the wand, and you can conduct the first concert.
I'd love to do that.
Actually. Fran?
I also wanted to say no because I want the baton.
I want the
I
baton.
want to say thank you for the creativity and going the extra step when it seemed like, there are a number of schools, and now we narrowed it down so that there are less and less that don't have it.
Okay.
Well, I understand the numbers at Valley View, because my kids went there, and I know the number crunch in that gym. My concern is those grade 7s not receiving the same opportunity the other grade 7s in the district. So I would hope, knowing the principal and knowing the music teacher there, that something would be there for those students to give them a little extra, because they don't have the same opportunity the other ones there. But I totally understand. My kids were there, I know that gym, so, yeah. So I would hope that those students would give them the opportunity to do something a little extra, as they are grade 7 students, and look at the other district, and it's something that would be my concern.
If I can just respond to that and remind you that that's the school that has the huge marimba equipment, which not all of the schools do. Arden does have marimbas in the same point, but they have a huge marimba program. And we also have 3 sets of district guitars that go around the district they have access to. And the music teacher that's there offers incredible world music program with lots of instrumentation. We're very confident that we're okay there. And I just hope that if we're not able to make it work in Evan and Valley View, we don't look at this as if we totally failed here. We look at it as if we've got a great core group of schools in this pilot year, and this is what this is. Because we're going to hopefully review this along the way. I know that's what you'll want us to do. And you'll want a recommendation at the end of the year. Did this work? Do we go forward, or was this a one-year plan? So we do have a great group that we can look at and see how we're doing. If not all schools are in it, we're just not going to put a person there to say, there's another school we've done. It's got to be a qualified, quality program and person.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you too. I think back a few years ago when we made the decision to scrap middle schools in the district. And I know that a lot of people had concerns about the loss of band for grade 7 students. And then after that, we heard about concerns of band being preserved in our secondary schools now. So I think this really goes a long way to make sure that the grade 7s have a good opportunity to do something different, to do something special, something that some of the other kids in the district that are in a middle school have access to. So I'm really happy you're able to make this fly sort of piecemeal together. It's great. Thank you very, very much. Go on.
We skipped over a little good news item in the superintendent's report.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that, the Fred McGregor?
It's been, as you know, this is Fred had made a commitment to update us as frequently as he could, and so this is Fred, of course, is working around energy conservation and he's working with schools. He's doing great work with students involved in his community. One of the things they have been doing is calculating and monitoring electrical consumption. So he's just compared the first 6 months of 2010 to 2009, and we saved $26,000 of energy use, which is down 10.25%. And so that's part of that too. There's been some major programs at the schools, and then there's been some structural maintenance things that are done as well that will help conserve energy. So it's a good example to show the students that in 6 months you can make a difference just by changing your habits and environment. And he'll continue to update us.
All right, on to student travel requests. Who wants to speak to this one?
Sure, I can. So there's a big note from District Principal Jeff Taylor. Jeff is the person that coordinates all the field trips in the district and makes sure that he's connected with the policies that are in place. So he is, as the board policy mandates, suggested to you that you would do the principal, the GP Barony trip for grade 10 and 12 band students around Seattle in May. There is a protocol that speaks to the early approval of principal. This is why you're doing this in September, so that there's some tardy time to make sure that you are aware that students are going on this kind of a trip, particularly an international trip, so that you would approve the principal that Mark Aristell, grade 9 band students to go to Seattle. And that is to be in May as well, so it's been very accompanying senior students, and the Mark Aristell grade 10 student there in jazz band and choir to New York City in April 2012, and those are we're asking to recommend that we're recommending that you approve the principal, but further details as we get further down the road will come to you. Jeff has made sure that we are recognizing compliance and what we need to do to be done.
Questions?
I'm just in clear conflict with the Vanier dance trip. I am going to be chaperoning that trip, so I won't be going on the Vanier dance trip.
I don't know how that's a conflict for you.
Well, because I'm...
Punishment. Chaperoning kids. Oh, goodness gracious.
Awesome. I like 4 nights of no
Good for you.
sleep. Thank you.
Don't quote me on that, all right?
You want the mic?
Okay, anyone have any questions? So,
Move approval, all
of
three,
all three?
all back, they conform to the policy.
Okay, we want to second it?
Second.
Any discussion?
Just really quick, just to confirm, the GP Vanier did get PAC approved. There's no reference to it. In the GP Vanier request to go to Seattle, in the form, there's no reference to Parent Advisory Council being contacted.
approved it, they will leave that contact.
Thank you.
We can ask,
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Secretary Treasurer. Can we somehow get a mic down to Chuck?
Can't hear me?
Well, no, it's for, you know you have fans? You have fans out there, did you know that? That'd be great, thank you. For the people that are watching from afar. I love it. Thank you very much.
Pass that on.
So, just highlighting 3 things from our startup from my operational perspective. First one being busing, and this is a little bit different way of treating it prevented, but it's all blocking. So we think a loss in it. They issued busing French version across boundary students to Marcus, Glacier Bus, and courtesy riders in general. One of busing students to Marcus, we would allow cross-boundary as courtesy rides, transfers as courtesy rides while there was room on the bus. And it was with my understanding that every parent knew that if we started to lose seats to regular riders, that the possibility that their child could be removed from that bus. Speaking to a number of parents, I was told that they were unaware of that. They didn't give that information. So, just before I carry on, our superintendent mentioned that we're going through a complete busing review. We've already begun that, and we are going to look at every little aspect of our buses. Where they go, who they're bringing to the schools, why they're going to the schools. So, and we will reach you as we continue on with that. We won't make any changes from currently until after this has been looked at and completed. So everybody will know ahead of time what's happening. There was, I acknowledge, miscommunication, lack of communication at the start of the school year. That's been rectified. We put busing in place strictly for Marquisville to ensure that those students continue to get to that site. There's currently, we've got one bus that we dedicate to, it comes from the south and it runs straight to Isbell, and we've got another one that runs up through Cumberland and then on to Isbell. So we're bearing a cost of roughly $600 per day to continue this. So we're aware of that. The Glacier bus was initiated when Glacier School was closed and the school moved to Quinish. The board at that time elected to provide buses for those students in need so we could be assured that we get up the hill to the school. Somewhere along the way, it became apparent to parents living on the top side of the hill that the bus was available, and a midway stop was created. So right now we are busing a lot of children up to Quinish. We cannot have that bus turn on, do another run. There
another bus available to provide 2 buses. So we are living with and through this review will determine exactly what the needs are for that grade 2 bus, should it be continued after the end of this year. On Courtney's west side, there's roughly 400 children that go to Banyan. Out of that, there's approximately 70 that are eligible for riding the bus. There's been many courtesy riders picked up in the past year in the Lake Trail, 17th and this Gerald is another location, and more recently there's a lot of children walking up to Martin and catching the bus up there. If there's room on it, then there's a bus to Benny's up there. The stop of Deersville Lake Trail has to be moved because of some issues the school is experiencing. So again, we recognize that a lot of these children may need transportation to get to school to attend and complete their education. So that's also what we're looking at with this review. We need to look at just what those children are, who they are, and how we get them to school if that's what the decision is. Courtney Elementary Air Monitoring Station, we were approached by the Ministry of Environment during the summer. They had done a survey of the Comox Valley and determined that Courtney Elementary property was the best location to house an air monitoring station. They met with me and we looked at the site. He showed me what the footprint of the station is. I'm familiar with it because in one of the past slides we had some of our other school properties. So they went through a long process with the city to get permit approvals, and finally they got those approvals, and they may end up waiting until springtime when their new budget kicks in because the city costs a little bit more money than what they anticipated spending. Part of the agreement between the Ministry of Environment and the school district was that if we provide this, then they need to provide something that kids can benefit from education. So they are providing a website with all of the data that we collect, made available in the school, that can be used for education purposes within the school. So I think that's a win-win for everybody. And where the station is going to be located will not impinge on take away from any of the field use that the kids would regularly use. So I think that will work out well. The Marcusville portables. We had one portable that a year and a half or so ago, it was an older that we couldn't determine what it was. This year we were going to pull it out and replace it because we cannot find the source. There's no spore test in there, we have the mold dogs in there, there's no evidence of mold. This smell is unlike anything that I've smelled before. So to move it was the best thing that we could do. We had the fairly new portal that moved from Miracle Beach available. We moved that on site and we got rid of that old portal. We had promised to do periodic spore capture on a very regular basis throughout the district in all the portals. We did that this summer, and we didn't get results back until fairly late coming back to us. So there was one more portal in that plot for Edisville that showed a slightly elevated count of Penicillium mastoideus, which is usually found in windsills or wet rags type thing. So we closed the portal off right away when no students were in it, had been in it, and opened some walls to investigate. And though not extremely bad, I determined at that point that I'll take house service. And we could fix it, and it would look quite nice when we finished, but we still have no portal. should have it here hopefully this week, towards the end of this week. That's it on that.
Okay, anybody have any comments or questions? Maybe we'll try to go by topic. We'll go with busing first. Yeah?
Those I've got two on. One is the Glacier View bus stop. When the board first put that in place, there was no intent to ever have a stop on that bus. It was supposed to go from the bottom of the hill to the top of the hill.
Right.
So I'm not sure how this extra stop came in, but having talked to the principal, it's not really a good situation. She's having to find teachers to drive kids down the hill because there's a group of them that actually walk to school in the morning, find it much easier to hop on that bus after school to get off at that other stop. So I suggest maybe that stop should be eliminated because it was never intended by the board to have a stop there. It was to deal with those students that from the lower end of the area up to Quinish. And Lake Trail, I'm starting to have a little deja vu because I can remember a number of years ago we used to run 4 buses out of there to Vanier until Watson and Ash did a survey to find out who actually qualified and immediately eliminated 3 of the buses. So it sounds like the same situation is starting to happen again. So I hope the review comes up with something decent.
I'm confident.
Green?
Just, I'm glad to hear that you are doing a review on the busing, because I think you might be surprised at what we find. But I do have a question regarding that extra bus on the south, the $600 a day. When you add it up for the semester, it's a sizable chunk of money. I'm just wondering where you're going to find some. Is that a busing budget then, or?
Are you over budget? No?
It is just regular budget. We have the bus, which is about $1.8 million. We actually down a little bit from the previous year, so we have had some efficiencies already in the system. But one needs to get the whole picture, go back to the fact that we actually get about $2 million for funding for buses. So we're still under, and that goes back to the contract that was when it changed previously, not actually current. So we're still significantly under, which is a unique position in the school districts. We're still spending less than we actually get.
The only thing is, though, it's been already allocated $1.8 million, so that would put the whole budget over by $50,000. No?
Not at this point.
Okay.
All the routes exist now, or exist for last year, or so there's no new ones.
Okay.
Per se.
Sheila?
I'm really happy that you're doing a comprehensive review. I've serious concerns that the policy under which we operate just haven't kept up to date. I'm not looking for ways to kick kids off buses, but to make sure that they get there, and that we really have to pay attention to our newer green mandate, which some of us have known about for 40 years, but there's a safety hazard at those schools with individual parents driving. There are, so we need a group solution. We need public transit and our bus system linked together to get kids to school. A lot of parents, and we need to support their educational outcomes. So I'm thrilled that they're doing it. If it means that we have to amend our policy, kids walking from up First Street to Vanier is not particularly realistic. The city bus schedule does not work well for them to get to school on time or meet with teachers after school. Buses are overcrowded. We really, really need to look outside the box around this. Many parents would be happy to contribute towards a pass, or I'm sure that you'll come up with some wonderful creative ideas to bring all those values together and get much better service for the money that we're already doing and a much higher level of satisfaction and support for our students. So I'm thrilled that you're doing this review and happy to help provide input on the topic too.
On busing?
I have a quick question regarding busing. The ministry has been rallying to change for a number of years because under the School Act, busing is not a requirement to get the kids to and from school. So they have been rallying to change about reviewing the busing policy, and I've heard it again come up again. Have you heard anything more about that and what the ministry is talking about this? Is any news on that? Because I think it was the last week before they also talked about it also.
Yeah, definitely there's a change coming, and they haven't exactly clear about what that might look like, but probably, all they said was it won't be next year's funding. If there's a change, it will be a year after. Again, a further study as they have been since 2000.
Good to know that they're slow.
Well, I'd just like to say that from my perspective, I often, as a chair, get a number of people emailing me with comments, questions regarding things like this. And I did receive a number with regards to busing, and with people's permission, I did forward a number of them on. And I have to say, I think that you guys really reacted really quickly in order to find a solution for this. And I'm really impressed that you're taking ownership and identifying that there's an issue that needs to be looked into and that you're doing something about it. You can never go back and change the past, but create a different future. And thank you very much for taking responsibility. Okay, anybody want to talk about the air quality station? And the other item is what? Third one, portables? Jazz, did you?
I'm not saying a word about portables tonight. Mark it on the calendar.
I think it's freaky you knew how to pronounce that aspergillus from that. Green.
Did you say, check that all of the portables were tested in the summer, like district-wide, all portables, and then we have a schedule for testing throughout the year?
Tested for sure every spring and every fall. That's the baseline. And we all do test something.
I'd really like to express some thanks to Chuck and the maintenance department from Lake Trail. The district got quite a bit of flack from that school in the past about the neglect, but the work that was done on re-drywalling and the new doors, it looks super, and it was a wonderful start. And there's still lots to do. We don't even think about upstairs, but it has definitely made it feel good at that school for everybody, and so thanks so much for getting on it.
Thank you. Okay, now the moment we have all been waiting for. That is the report.
I'll try and keep it under 45 minutes. But I won't go into some detail. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I think it's important for the district to reflect on where we ended the year. And there is some sort of, at the end of what I'm going to talk about, what it's moved to the year, and I'll also give a brief update on the 7th and 1st student council. So I used to do these statements in reverse order because they actually logically go that way. Start at the back and look at the front, all the schedules that they look at the back and actually feed into the document. So it makes some sense to me anyway to go from that direction. Even the auditors did it's been a few years since they actually came to a presentation. They did think it was rather unique, but they did understand the logic. Anyway, so back starting page 61, which is schedule C5. The only thing you really know on this one is Vince, I think, is the local capital amount. The local capital is those funds that we received from selling equipment or properties in the past. As you can see, they're really not a huge change. The middle column there, it started at 2.1 million and ended at 2.085. So not a huge change there. Now, again, just some interest. That would be one fund we could tap for equipment for 21st century learning. So, there is no allocation of it at this time. The board, as we move through that process of 21st century learning, may want to keep this in mind as this one as a place where they can go to get that fund. Okay, so that's all I'm going to talk about on schedule C5. On C4, the one that this is page 60. And again, the Ministry of Education restricted capital. So that's our other capital reserve. It's similar to local capital, except it's where we sold properties that were actually paid for by the ministry. So they then get to have a say in how it's spent. So that reserve is the second column in. It started at 8.088 and ended at 7.184. So if you remember, partway through the year, we asked for $2.1 million to cover off what AFG was not providing and do some other work. So that is why that number actually went down. But still, that's largely an unallocated number. again, the ministry is looking for us to put some money into helping those new directions. That would be a place we should go. I mean, typically, they have to approve and it has to be real true capital in nature. But I think given this is their direction, they would probably be fairly friendly towards requesting. So we do have several slots to go if we need the funding from there. So that C3 has to have the deferred contribution, the deferred capital contribution. It's really to sort of give us all our assets and what sort of mortgage we have against it that feeds into the other parts of C3, 4, and 5. But I will go to C1, which is just a breakdown of how we spend our money. And it's mostly at the top section there where it says cost and changes through the year. So across the sites, buildings, furniture, and equipment, you can see really of the spending, it was largely in the area of buildings and furniture and equipment. We didn't do sites, vehicles, nor computer software. And that's really all in that statement. So section B, which I'll flip you back then to page, starts on page 54, and actually page 54 and 55. The only thing here that I think, again, would sort of be of interest to the board, the annual facilities grant on page 55 is the first column. And when it talks about the third contribution at the end of the year, which is at the end of that first section, it's, of course, zero. We spent all of the AFG that they gave us. And that was, of course, what our intention was. Normally, we do have balances carried forward, but we have managed to spend it all.
Sorry, where are you at, sir?
We're at page 55, the column 1,
Right.
on Schedule B. If we hadn't, they wouldn't allocate us further funding, so we were very diligent in making sure we spent it.
Thank you.
So then I'll carry on to page 4.2. Page 52. This is a breakdown by programs. The different areas, starting with instruction. So function 1 is instruction. Function 4, district administration. So you can see that goes down the left, and operations and maintenance. Like when we compare the amended budget, we did quite well. Our actual 2010 numbers, like construction was 62 million, our budget was 62,209,000, our budget was 62,721. So we came in pretty close. District administration also pretty close in terms of being slightly overspending, 2317 versus 2285. Function 5, the facilities area, was over again. And this one, again, some of the money we were spending could have come out of some of those other reserves, but just in terms of the timing of it and the issues, it's only got left there. I think we will be able to correct that in the current year without having this happen again. That's really that, section 4.2. So then you A1, 2, and 3. So these are our revenue expenses. And rather than kind of go through those three pages at length, I just kind of did a summary which is on your page 26. And it's kind of global look at revenues. We're up from budget by about $1,081,000. Our expenditures go up a little bit as well, $234,000 in total. Now that was teachers was a little under budget, principals above budget, support staff under 369, professionals over 32,000, subs 17,000, very small number, benefits 399,000, supplies and services were up 261. So if you take, so if you sort of take all that together, that's a difference of a total of about 847,000. So that's where, when we were originally predicting a deficit in that range of 300,000 plus, we actually came in a surplus that was the other way. That's what's driven that there. So I just did that on a summary level rather than kind of go through each individual. If people have questions about that, I'm happy to go through it in more detail. So then, through the notes there, the only one I think that we really need to kind of stop at would be Note 8, which is employee pension plans, which that was interesting for this action plan. have scary numbers in it. We did get an update just recently from the municipal pension plan.
What page?
Over page 45. Which is just so just saying that, of course, with the economy the way it's been and the investments being what they are, these numbers have worsened from even what's being portrayed here. There are some changes, and I'll talk about it in a minute when we get to the end, of some cost increases, because as those plans are somewhat more underfunded, there will be some cost increases associated with that, both for the employer and for the employee. That's the lead. The operating, note 9 that was mentioned, the operating fund balance. So the school supply accounts for the school district program, $390,000. And as you can see, the future employee benefits, where we used to actually keep a sizable amount of money, like in the $1 million plus range, we're down to $50,000. There was a reevaluation done on our plan, and we are not as underfunded as they thought. So this is good news in the sense that it does free up some of the money for other budgets. So the upshot at the end there is where it's talks, and this is on page 45 as well, for future year's budget, 2010, 11, 13. We do have about 1.5 million. Now, just to remember, the budget we did pass contained a deficit of about 726, which would be about half of that amount, just to sort of keep it relative in your mind. So I will go to page 4.22. Statement 4.2, so right on page 35, it's really looking at cash balance. The operating fund, if you go through it, that's the first column. Last year, being the year was 19.6, we still have $20 million of cash, which is a good thing. We managed to keep our cash. But as the ministry has changed the rules, that will be start coming down. They do not fund us as much in July and August, which will then have an impact on how much cash we have throughout the year. But still, generally, a pretty healthy position to be in. 4.1 is just a cash change for the year, which is one of those wonderful statements I think only accountants can love and understand. It really just details how the actual cash flows in and out. Again, page 33, statement 3, fund balance is how they change. So operating, the 1.6, again, we left the right, starting with the operating fund. We, at the beginning of the year, had a fund balance of 1.6. That was the overall surplus position at that time. And we now are sitting at $2 million. Again, that's the change from running a small deficit to running a small surplus is added to it, so that brings that number up. So special purpose funds are those trust funds that we talked about, really not a significant change. And then in the capital fund, again, not a significant change from previous years. So in statement 2, the revenue expenses, again, just again, details from operating fund, special capital. Nothing sort of jumps out at you. If you wanted to do a comparison, the total 09, you would see the teacher salaries have gone down a little bit. Principals down. Educational assistants down a small amount. Support staff down a bit. And other professionals down. So you can see there has been reductions in more plans all the same substitute costs are down as well. Those are the things that are on the expense side have gone down. So statement 1 is, of course, the one that's sort of the accumulation of all this, which is financial position, what we call balance sheet. I'm sure we can actually make all of these schedules add up and come to a balanced number. But it is an interesting one to go through, and I will just walk you through it just so people, if they want to get a sense of where we are in the business, a good statement to understand. If you look at the very first column, which is the operating fund, we have cash, as I mentioned, about $20 million. We have some small receivables out there, $56,000, and a few others of the $420,000 $126. Prepaid expenses would be those items we pay for that we're receiving service in the following year, the year we're in. So that would make up everything that would be considered the assets on that side. The liabilities, of course, would be where we have some accounts payable of about $884,000. Interfund loans, so that's money that's just owed back and forth between the operating fund, the special purpose funds, and the capital funds. So that number actually does show up in the numbers above, but they don't count it in, so unfortunately it shows a zero on the far right of the total, which confuses even me sometimes, but anyway, that's just part of what the statements have to have in it. The other one, current liabilities of $3.3 million, that's largely wages payable, benefit costs, some of those big liabilities like that. Deferred revenue, again, revenue received that we haven't brought into our books yet, so to speak, 552, and the accrued employer future benefits, which I mentioned a little while ago, we do have $4 million on the books to fund that. That's again, that going concern concept in GAAP that they wanted us to be able to actually have those funds on hand to pay for those employee future benefits. So whatever reason, so those receipts that is in there for the $4 million. The investment, after that would be the fund balance of $2 million, which is the operating surplus, and then that totals $20 million, which balances all the trust funds. Again, there's not a significant amount of money in there. We're really only sort of talking about $1 million. Again, it starts with a cash of 1.1. The interfund loans, what it's owed of 317 to make the $1.4 million. And again, largely deferred contributions of what we haven't spent yet. The capital fund is an interesting one to go through always. On the asset side, the top section, interfund loan, what it's owed from the operating fund is $9 million. And then the other part is the capital assets. So that's the net value, or the gross value of all our capital assets. Buildings there, $97 million, ranges of $107 for a total. On the other side of it, we have our deferred contributions to the Ministry of Ed of 7.2, which would actually be a largely reserves we have there. The 337. Oh yeah. School benefit funds, employee contributions, donations, funds generated by individual schools, that kind of stuff. So that's 337. The $70 million is sort of the unamortized amount of our assets, and the $27 million is the investment. Next, as you go to the next section, investment capital assets, $27 million. The two numbers go together to sort of reach the total of the gross capital assets. So that's kind of basically like the mortgage written off as you go along. So that brings you the total fund balance of $107 million. So the three funds all balance off. And you can see the column to the right, the total 2010, not far right, the second to it is just an accumulation. So this is the ministry has tried to bring together in one spot all the information about sort of how healthy the organization is in one statement. So again, just I'll touch back on what's on Schedule A1 if you want to look at it, but it is just to say that we are in a good spot in the sense the overall operating surplus was at $2,027,000, and that is up from the $1.6 million from the previous year. I think the news from the financial statements are generally positive. The results are closely matched what we forecast. And as I sort of take that and look to the future, it seems like we might be in a bit more of a stable funding environment for the ministry. I don't expect to see the large swings like we did at shorter times a year ago. I just didn't get the feeling, and I can't pin it on anything, but I think we're going to see more stability for this current year. Now, that doesn't mean we won't have some challenges as we get into budgeting. I think there will be challenges. I just hope they won't be so daunting that it feels that bad. As I mentioned a little earlier, we do have some cost increases coming. Municipal pension plan is one. We received notice on, I think, the regular medical, and the regular medical as well going up. So there's some other cost increases that we'll have to bring into the equation. So that leads me to where we're going to do the 11-12 budget. Of course, looking to reconstitute our budget advisory committee, and hope to get out of it sooner this year as well, just to give people more of a chance to have input on where we go with that. I think it will be a lot smoother when we have more of our sort of mandate issues that we'll figure out. I think it will go a lot smoother. So that's kind of it for financials. Would you like me to update you on the student count in 1701, or do you want to ask questions about this first?
Maybe ask questions about this first. Anybody have any?
I think it's great that we end up with a surplus after having forecast a deficit. And in the grand scheme of things of our overall budget, it's not a huge bucket of money, but it is a $670,000 swing. And because we, as trustees, go through a process of sort of grinding out what feels like every nickel, I'm wondering, are there any thoughts around, as we enter the budget process this year, that allow us to, I don't want to say better forecast, but anticipate these types of swings? Because, again, it feels good, but it feels wonky given the experience of the, it feels wonky, just feels from doing last year, right? So as we were, I mean, we all participated, and the public's aware that we just sort of ground our way through the process. So.
The quote of the year.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What I mentioned here, when I think we are entering a more stable environment, I think that's important because I think we may be able to sort of count on it. But one of the things that we were really cautious around last year, and when I talk about the revenues being up $1 million, we kind of knew there was that potential for that upside on it, but we were really reluctant to count on it. I think, this year we'll be able to be a bit better about saying, we really expect that this will come through. Some of this was about the distance education money, education guarantee funding. Some that they'd actually, if I look back at, the rhetoric that was happening at the time was not as solid as I would like before. I would say, let's put it in the budget. So I am hopeful that we will be better at that. Yes, I think we can be. I'm not sure you'll ever get the conservatism, how conservative I am out of it. It's by nature, it's a lot better to be in this position than to be in the opposite. But that said, we have a budget we created that does have a deficit of $725,000. So I think it's really unlikely that we, go up in a similar fashion next year. I do think it will actually pull down. And given we actually have, I think I may be wrong, I may have put in the briefing note that was 3 extra staff. I think it's only 2 extra staff that were actually given out. The day I did this, it was probably 3. But anyway, which will add to that issue of the budget, for those discussions. So I think it may be actually where at the end of the year we'll have trouble. It may be more difficult to actually handle that. And we will be trying to.
Kareem?
Let me just first say that I do ignore that conservative side. Now, on statement 1, under the deferred contributions under other note 6, when you said that some of those funds are generated by individual schools, does that mean from rentals of their school spaces, or?
Just, I believe it's their, actually, it didn't change from the beginning of the year. Oh, it is in the capital. The first, I gotta read it. It was deferral of proceeds from the sale. Well, that was the surplus property. We couldn't bring all the money in. Remember, there was a bit of an issue with that one.
Just wondering whether you could please explain how you reconcile the idea of the $2 million plus surplus with a structural deficit.
Well, when we set up, you're looking at the $2 million is the overall surplus we have at the end of the fiscal year. The structural deficit we built into the current year, so in the year we're in, the 10-11 budget, would be a structural deficit, and that if nothing else changes, we will land at a deficit position as that then carries forward because we typically budget moving forward as opposed to redoing that would then be considered structural in the sense it's built in. actually do something. So, I mean, if you're sort of saying, well, what's our plan for the end of the year? It's the 2 million less than 700,000. So, realizing that the 2 million isn't all available to the schools, there's about 1.5 sort of available to us, that would be half of what's there.
Sheila?
Well, I'm just interested in where you're going with, where, in the projecting the revenue for this year, the things that were up were, the optimistic option out of the ministry and additional revenue from the international program. Have you used the optimistic version, or is ministry funding this year going to be pretty steady?
I think what I was trying to say was, with the education guarantee funding and some of those other sources.
Obviously you didn't know that.
I just don't see them getting in and actually changing it. Where last year had been a year and a half ago, they'd been tweaking so much. Partly, I think, just the state of the economy at that time. They were seeing their provincial revenue drop so significantly that they were twisting every button.
And community links money was...
Get that sense. So I feel a bit more confident, that as I look through the documentation we have, that we'll say, we're still likely to see that.
Okay, so I have a lot of interest in how we track what the cost of the configuration decision about Vanier will be. And I think that the additional stress on busing, and I think that operating costs for the portables was not calculated into where we were thinking. Loss of international student revenue because there are no international students at Vanier. Was that predicted in your budget, or are we going to be looking for what the outcomes are as we go along?
I think, to the best of our ability, we try to build those things into the budget process. The international is interesting. We had a discussion with the director there, Rob Moore, not that long ago, and he seemed pretty confident to actually hit the number. Again, he may even be able to get more than what we predicted, which again would be helpful for us. So I think that's going to be...
Not exactly what he said at the education committee, because, I guess I'd interpret it, yes, and that we're not going to be able to quantify what we could have had over and above that if Vanier had been available, right?
That's quite true. It would be hard to quantify. Certainly, he did speak about the lack of being able to students and hurting him, and maybe he will not hit the target. Right? There's always a possibility. Although last time he was getting pretty close to the number.
Good.
But again, the nice part about the fact, even though we still have a bit of a structural deficit, we do have some room if things go against us on those campaigns. We just try and adjust as we go through the year as well, particularly if it's international. There's some things we could do to try and crank that back to what we receive from the program. And one of the things in the future, I'd certainly do is try and tie in more of that international funding in a visible way to people so they see where it goes, both from the standpoint of what the schools get from it and what the district.
I think that was one of the recommendations in the operational review. I just look at these reports and I always think, I'm glad I went into social work and not into being an accountant. Thanks for looking after all of this. For me, the important piece that comes out of this is knowing that I think that you have assisted us with making sure that we are in a strong position going forward. I did appreciate the process that we went through last year. I think we were able to get started fairly soon. Sounds like you're saying that we have to consider a $700,000 structural deficit for this year and what to do with respect to it. Is that right?
No, I have one built in. What we'll need to do is look at all the ups and downs and decide where we be. I think probably the list will bring probably somewhat similar to last year, where we talked about where something was in the $1.5 to $2 million range. They will probably be similar in the sense of we're going to be predicting still a loss of students, which I can talk about and you certainly get a sense. Maybe that's a good bridge. If no one else has it, I can weave that in as I go through this.
Just one other thing that I would like to say, though, like, as you identify what our need will be for the next school year, I think it was great that we had the Budget Advisory Committee struck to have discussions about that. I really appreciated the principals being involved to the degree that they were. They were in the schools every day and managing our business there, and I think we really relied heavily on their advice with regards to that list. And so I'm wondering, are you anticipating starting a process with the principals as well? And when are you thinking Budget Advisory Committee would get going and that kind of thing?
My hope would be that by late October it would start.
Okay, good, thanks.
So can I make a motion? Make the motion at this point?
Do you want us to make a motion now? Okay.
So that the audited financial statements as of June 30th, 2010 be accepted as presented and forwarded to the Ministry of Education.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Do you have some more information?
Just in emphasizing the difficulty speaking about the future for where we have projection. So as everyone's aware, I think we're in full funding projection in the current year. And so really, in some sense, having more or less students doesn't help us very much. It doesn't change our funding. So it is of somewhat less importance, but I think we need to keep it in mind as we come out from underfunding protection, which will start hopefully in this 11-12 year. It's unclear from the ministry this time exactly what that will look like, but I do expect that they will probably bring in sort of a 1/3 or 1/2 of the changes that you want to do in the year. So that will hurt us and help us in some regards, right? Sort of some still to be determined, but I think we just need to keep in mind that it is still an important thing, and as we started to talk about strategic facilities plan in a while, all these things need to sort of brought together in one place. So anyway, secondary, the forecast were pretty much right on. I think we were down 8 from what we projected. In elementary, it looks like we are up about 35 in total, if you look overall. So I'm just going to give you the summary level on this. We do have the details if anybody really wants to use school right down to grade level. Anyway, 35 was up in the elementary element program, gained up to 20 as well, so that would be a net number of 47. So that's what we are up from what we projected. Now, tying to that piece of what we use for our projections going forward, we're still going down. I mean, if you look at September 10th, the changes due to that kindergarten kids from kindergarten to grade 12 that move out, we're actually down about 200 students. That's the inflow to the other side is 74, so that's a net number. We're still down 126 from the previous year. Now, just by comparison, the year before, 09, was 150. The year before, September 08, was 327, which was quite a bad year. September 07 was a good year at 68. I think if you sort of look back and sort of judge the economy as it was getting bad in the valley, that would sort of help explain why September 08 went from, again, so in terms of 300 students one year was a lot. It seems to have come down, and as we've always thought, you're now at about grade 9 with that sort of reduced cohort size. We've really got about 3 years left of where we're going to see pretty significant decline still, because again, that's like kindergarten age students to grade 12. And I mentioned in the context of sort of the funding, I think we still need to look at being down right around 150 students. So that will have an impact, on sort of staffing levels. Those sort of programs going to be able to offer. So that's one thing as we look at it and judge how many students we have, so how do we arrange all the classes to fit that and the money, right? And as I mentioned, there's some items that are pushing our costs up to sort of increase where we might have to go. So those will be the things we'll bring to the table with the Budget Advisory Committee. And again, like I said, I think it's a good thing. We're probably going to come up from a funding protection at a good time. The ministry, and maybe this is even in their plan, they never sort of articulated it, but I think they're looking at these numbers as well, and they get the same sense, right? That this should become less of an issue over the next 3 years. By the time the full funding protection, is lost to us, will be about the time we'll probably become quite stable. In that regard, it's probably a good thing. And then it also helps us in particular, the special ed area, which is one which we've not seen a decline in, it's actually gone up. So as those people come into the system and need services, we will be able to provide them, and we will get funding for them, which would be good. We do get second count funding, but it isn't as helpful as actually having the funding. So I think that's probably about it, and I'm just seeing if you have any questions about the scheme of the loan data.
Brad?
Just to clarify, I didn't think that we're up 47 students this year
From protection.
from projection. And down how many from last year?
If you look at the data, so just to explain, we're down 126 in total. 74 came into the system, 200 went out. Those 200 going out, just for simplicity, if you look at it as grade 12, so there's more grade 12 in the kindergarten subtraction.
Okay, thanks. Next item?
So, I'll find my place here. We'll get K in the capital.
62.
So, the ministry did kind of get ahead of itself in the rush to find ways to get the full day K modules where I have to use in place. So we need to get on with actually citing the portables, getting the permits, all those kind of wonderful things before we actually can give the plan to the ministry. They realized there's some cost involved in doing that, so they had allocated to us, I think, $150,000 to do all those plans for the ones that we had coming. Normally, they expect us to have project agreements signed off with the minister's signature, but they just decided not to do that. So they said, here, have a capital bylaw in this amount and this number, and we'll carry on. So that's just right here. So we use the bylaw so we can borrow the money and get on with that plan.
Any questions? Fran?
So these new modular buildings, which I might call portables, how many are we getting? And where are they going? 8?
7. We had 7. I think I can remember. Rob Road was 2.
Rob Road 2?
Sorry. Yeah, Thomas Park was 3. 2.
2 at Cumberland?
How many are there? Cumberland, 2.
Valley View?
Bellevue.
Barely getting more than that.
Just move a portable out of Valley View.
So, don't even go there. So,
Walks like a duck and talks like a duck, yeah.
So like when, this is kind of mysterious to me, this whole modular thing. So I learned last night from Ellie there that the ministry's dictating where they're going. We had input, but they have to go to a certain place. We can't.
I don't know that. I don't think it was that tight. My impression was that, they said, here, you give us your plan, and we gave them a plan, right, and said, okay, this is how we'd like it to see, and they basically approved that. I don't think it was any different than that.
Oh, okay, so it's our plan. Oh, okay. And then I'm wondering, is $102,000, is that going to cover the entire cost of what it's supposed to cover, or are we going to have to kick in some more too?
I do believe it will cover everything. It depends on how it kind of goes. If you go to a site and they're asking you some soil studies, say, whether it will actually support a building long term, those kind of things, it depends on what you get into. You might, do an initial survey and it says, well, it's not fine, and then you have to do a lot of work to sort of make it fine. It may not. But I think this is just to get it rolling. If we had specific issues, we can go back, and I think they would be just giving us another project.
So this isn't to purchase the 7.
No, not at all. This is just for the, they could look at where we're going to place them, draw it, get it to the city so we can say this is where we're going to put it, what do we need to do, what do we plan the services to make it around, all those kind of things. It would be sort of initial study.
Okay, and then they're going to give us the rest of the money after for that.
Correct.
I'm going to hold you.
Any other questions?
Question 2, the cost of the modulars. Who is paying for them? Secondly, are these the ones you talked about using BC pine beetle wood to support BC like, I'm just curious, because I was at a meeting where she stated these volunteers were coming to school districts supporting BC workers using BC lumber. So I'm just curious, did that come through?
The funding itself, it is part of the capital program. They made it really clear it's not going to be district funded. They are going to increase our capital plan to cover it. That's when they talk about the number. I can't remember what the total number is, but it's going to cover all of those. As to using wood, absolutely, the government is everything is wood now, right? It's just, as they say, this is wood. I'm unaware that there's any pine beetle wood in it.
I heard pine beetle too.
I was at that meeting.
Sheila?
I think it's the HST rebate from the federal government that they're putting into them. Otherwise, it's one way or another, it's the taxpayer. I just think as you're doing this planning process, it's, in some cases, it's good to check in with the school community, the parents and things. Sometimes there's gardens or special playgrounds, trees where you know, and you just don't want that thing where you have a whole bunch of parents going, what the heck they put that there for? So, you know, that's a nice little step to do.
Certainly we can try and do that. I mean, what we have looked at too much more with the budget is Blair Pest is trying to actually make this so they actually attach to the building and trying to create a good action. Rather than stand off to the side of the board.
Little walkways and, but potentially, I mean, are they mandated that they have to be used for the Ks, or are they to create additional? So potentially, they create opportunities, just as some of the preschool operators are talking about a need to run weekend or pro-D day programs and stuff that their facilities, the school might use for some pretty interesting programming. Yeah, good.
Okay, you may want to make the read the first time.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. That School District 71, Comox Valley, adopt full-day kindergarten FDK bylaw 126160 in the amount of $102,368, receiving its first reading.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Second reading, please.
I would move that School District 71, Comox Valley, adopt the full-day kindergarten FDK bylaw 126160 in the amount of $102,368, receiving its second reading.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
That the board unanimously agree to suspend the requirements of the School Act and the board's procedural bylaw 2007 to have the third reading of the bylaw at a subsequent meeting.
Question for you, Len. I thought we could just, we don't, that's redundant, isn't it? Because we can pass budget bylaws all in one meeting. We're not suspending school act requirements. So now what do we do? Just vote?
I'd withdraw the motion.
Is everybody okay with Tom withdrawing it? Okay, good. Third reading, please.
That the School District 71, Comox Valley, adopt the full-day kindergarten FDK bylaw 126160 in the amount of $102,368, receive its third and final reading.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you. Strategic Facilities Plan.
Anyways, the board is aware the ministry has changed how we have to present a 5-year capital plan. We do expect us to have a long-range or long-term strategic plan in place before they do much in the way of approvals for it. So we have contracted a firm called Stantec to help us build that plan. We've had a couple of meetings, mostly just with senior staff, just to kind of give them some background and for them to sort of educate us around what sort of a process we could possibly go through. So that's all we've done to date. There's certainly the intentions out there that the trustees will be brought into this process as well as educational partners. And this is meant to be a very open and transparent discussion of our facility. There's going to be lots of brainstorming sessions and that kind of thing that come forward yet. So this also fits with the board's request back in June to have an overarching plan to insert these kind of other issues like capital plans, our budgets and our 21st century all in one place. So this is a real good timing for us. I mean, it fits what the ministry wants, but I think for ourselves, it's been a great exercise to go through that will help us do that. We'll be able to say, we've actually considered, how best we're going to actually move our learners forward by integrating capital plan to our budget. But I think it's actually really positive. The first couple of meetings I went to attend, I thought was great. Certainly the individual who's doing this for us has a tremendous amount of experience at it, and he understands the education side of it a lot. I'm not sure I always do. Anyway, and again, I just listed on there, and that's just from the staff tech where we talk about what does the long-range plan include. But it is a long-term role for the school that we see that as the confirmation validity, is that really make sense? Is that, what the school district is going to do long-term? We'll also have to include our enrollment forecast, capacity utilization in the context of the schools around that. So that's where they're saying, look, if you have an empty school here but less capacity issue over here, what are you going to do to fix it, right? So they expect us to be able to articulate that. And options for potential reconfiguration, which I hate that word. It's on there and what they do. So that's just kind of the things we're going to go through, look at the requirements for each facility, and where required, what are the area requirements for sites based on the capacity expectations for future expansion. So I think, again, just to say something positive about it, here we get a chance to actually look down the road, and I think the ministry will be much more likely to support some of the projects if we can actually do a good job with this. The better job we do with this, I think the more support we have for whatever projects we have, that are our number 1 and number 2 on the list. I think this will give us that little extra advantage to be able to get the approvals in place. As I've said in the past, I think it's about renewal of the facilities, right? I know we've gone through a long period of closure, not seen anything new for a long time. But this feels really good to actually be able to get into a spot where, we've turned this around, we're thinking the future, and it feels like it's supported by the ministry as well. I do think that this is going to be quite positive for us. So again, that's just for information.
Comments or questions? Fran?
Just a quick question. What kind of firm does Stan have? Is it like accounting or consulting?
I would believe that engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Again, carry on. Policy 8001, use of facilities, which was mentioned was passed late in the last school year. We've received, some concerns about the increases. Like I said, in the briefing, I took a lot of inquiries there in the late June, early July period from people about the lack of notice for it. So we, as a group, came together to talk about that and decided it probably would be best, given that there wasn't a notice, to actually move that off for June. It did seem unreasonable for most of them that without notice they would not be able to get the funds. So it was really sort of not a lot of options. So that was the decision we made to implement it. But at the same time, we also, again, some people that may not have seen the increases coming, we're also looking at the policy and trying to make some cases that, hey, we should be exempt from this. So we got quite a few inquiries at that level too. So I think it's probably best if we were actually to review the policy again, which I know it seems like we just finished it, but we, as per policy, normally do it once a year, or should do it once a year. So I think it's probably appropriate to send it back to finance to work on over the next couple of months to do some of that. And there are a few little tweaks as well in terms of after wording in the policy. Most people vetted it after the
Any questions? Fran?
I'm not looking for more work for the policy committee, but just curious why finance committee as opposed to policy committee?
Glenn?
Yeah, it is. It's actually in the policy. 2001. So it's defined 30 days.
But this seems different than reviewing it. This seems significant. Are we talking about looking at the policy or reviewing the numbers?
It's largely what people are talking about is money, which is one line. I didn't see anything in there that was, about other parts, that it was strictly about when the rates come in, should we be exempt, could we be exempt.
So does anybody feel like making this motion at
I'll
all?
make the motion to refer policy and regulations to the Finance Committee for an annual review.
Second.
Any discussion? Yeah, I support this. I think we had, I know I received a number of emails and calls with respect to this that I think that we perhaps were not sort of aware of the extent to which rates might go up. And I think that it is prudent for us to receive more information at the Finance Committee to really fully understand what this is. And I'd just like to say that actually we did pass this originally in February. The only piece that was sent back for review was the piece on daycare. So unfortunately, the notice wasn't sent out, and I do thank you for not putting that, imposing that on people with 2 weeks' notice. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Committee chair's not saying anything. That is carried. Okay, thank you. Retirements and resignations.
Yes, page 66. I'll be very brief. Two times, Illinois Bowman teacher, will retire October 31st after 24 years of service to the district. And Noah Wilson, a long-term computer technician with the school district for the IT department, retired effective September 22nd after 17 years of service to the district. And both of these folks will be honored at their retirement in June 2011.
Thank you.
Receive the management report.
Second.
All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Finance Committee didn't meet. Policy Advisory Committee, anything, Tom?
Minutes are before you, and move to receive the report.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Education Committee, Danny?
Okay, Finance Committee didn't meet because it was no item before it.
I know. We have something now.
Education Committee, the minutes are there. There is one recommendation regarding Boys and Girls Club after school care and daycare, and that's to refer to the Secretary Treasurer for further information.
Move the recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? Glenn?
Yeah.
Again, this process will sort of have,
Yeah.
the old one, half the new one. Are you wanting me to bring this back? I'll try and gather up the information. Is it expected to come back in October or so?
If it meets all the approvals, I would say probably information coming back, yes.
Any further?
I'd like to amend the motion that we refer to the Secretary Treasurer to work with the Boys and Girls Club to bring this, their proposal to an implementation stage.
That's what it's
That's
going
what
to
you
do.
did.
That's what this is all about.
Further information doesn't say that.
Well, no, there was some information relating to the town of Comox and whether we can cite a portable there.
Well, exactly. It's like he would work with them to get the...
Correct. So
Okay, so
that's why we only asked for a report back. If everything's in accordance with what's required.
Okay, I'm all in favor. Well, I'll withdraw that as long as that's the intent, and it's clear that that is intent, that we aren't just getting more information, but you're making it happen, assuming it's possible. Yeah, well, I'm sure. Good.
Okay?
We'll receive the report.
No.
Hold on that.
Those in favor of the motion?
We'll receive the
That's
report.
carried. Thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Janice, Vista.
Okay, I can talk fast, so I'll talk fast. I'm the Vista rep, and we had a Vista branch meeting this weekend past Saturday, which was 23 degrees in Houghton, so I hope you guys had the right
Doesn't
rain up
matter.
there. It's nice. Anyways, one of the topics was the BC Enterprise Student Information System, better known as the VISTA. Vista branch will be writing the Minister of Education a strongly worded letter regarding the failure school districts have been experienced, demanding that the technical problems with the system be resolved and holding those providers and services accountable. Basically, it's fix it, or dump it was the message that we were trying to give provincial government. So whether they listen to us, I don't know. There are several motions going to the Provincial Council with respect to BC ESIS. Cowichan is asking for a refund. They've estimated they've spent over $1.2 million on this dysfunctional service, that's their words, and they would like their money back. Others are demonstrating the provincial government, or demanding the provincial government and the minister hold those who provide the software and service accountable and fix the problems. We're told that Fujitsu, the company, was contracted to host it, and the PLNet, which is a government-run network, provides internet services, and they rely on each other, and it's not working. It's a problem that they know about, and every year they seem to fall back on it. This is also asking other boards to write a letter supporting their motion, and I make a motion that our board write a letter to the education minister strongly supporting that they fix the system to support our staff and our students.
Sorry, so what's the motion?
That our board write a letter to the Minister of Education strongly supporting that they fix the system, or dump it. But I can't see dump it.
Well, that's what your motion is.
Or get a system that works.
We had one.
Yeah.
Or go back to a system that works.
Okay, so the motion, write a letter to the Minister of Education strongly suggesting,
They fix it or get a system that works.
or get a system that works. Anyone want to second that? Any discussion?
I think we have, we've received a lot of letters from other districts that they're writing. We received a great letter from the CDTA about the experience of frustration, and it appears that the whole issue has reached the crisis point, so.
Okay.
Okay, second one is...
Just, we gotta vote.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to type
Any
out.
other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Just if I could make a request, because I think time is of the essence in this. Deb, if you could maybe get a letter ready that just says, here's motion that the board passed at our meeting last night, and quote the motion, it'll be ready to go tomorrow, and I can sign it and send it off right away. Thank you.
21st century learning was another hot topic with trustees. What exactly is it? It's often referred to as a personal learning, which many districts, including our district, has always been a pilot project on. The ministry went to other user groups and showcasing Centering to Learning, but forgot that as trustees we are co-governors. So the BCSC Board of Directors went to the ministry, and BCSCA has set up a working session with the ministry staff, with trustees, which include board chairs, provincial councillors, and Vista branch chairs, and to talk about what it is, and the format and agenda has yet to be finalized, so that's coming up. The comment was, the government often imposes new curriculum and ideas, but seldom does the government follow up adequately with adequate funding or provide resources for these new initiatives. Often what seems to be a great idea will fall short of success or result. So boards need to advocate for money and resources if this new 21st century learning is going to succeed, which ties into what Gordon Swan, who's our BCS Board of Directors, asked. He said that it's really important that boards make a presentation or submission to the select financial committee that's going around the province with respect to funding. It is important to continue to let the government know that public education funding needs to meet the needs of all the students to succeed in the 21st century. My report, motion to receive my report.
Any discussion?
Are we going to write a letter to
Make a motion.
I would move that we make...
So we already have a motion on the floor here.
Do we do?
You wondering about the Select Standing Committee on Finance?
Well, yeah, actually, and the issue about the cost of the implementation of the minister's new direction in personalized learning, that we should be adding our voice to the people that are saying, love the idea, but we need to be funded properly. And we need to be funded for existing programs, not an add-on of a new thing. So that standing committee is our opportunity at this point to, lots of the districts have actually made presentations to it. At this point, we can submit positions. So
I called last week to see if we could get on the agenda, and they said if we wanted to be on there, we would be the fifth in line waiting for a cancellation, and they only have, I think, a 3-hour spot. So I think we're not going to be able to go and present in person. We would have to do something differently, write them a letter or something.
Let's make them a flashy DVD.
I'd just like to say that it's on October 22nd, and so Janice, I hope that you're able to go you go to provincial council. I'm definitely going. Somebody that I follow on Twitter is the chair of the Vancouver School Board, Patty Backus, and she sent out a tweet after making a presentation on behalf of the Vancouver School Board to say that one of the committee members made a comment that they would have enough money to pay for this because they would be saving a lot of money in staffing, I heard, because they wouldn't need so many secondary teachers. So something I believe that I've heard very strongly from our board since we've been in for a couple of years is we strongly believe that there needs to be a human body standing in front of students as a first line, and so I will be speaking in favor of that when I go. It's really important. Yep, I know, I'm speaking to her report. She called motion to anyone else want to make a comment? Okay, all those in favor of receiving Janice's report? That is carried. Thank you.
Can I move then now that we, as a board, write a letter to the Standing Committee on Finance expressing our deep concern for adequate, sustainable funding for public education?
I think you just did.
Second.
Any discussion? Did you catch that?
Yes, again. Did the board write a letter to the Standing Committee on Finance?
Mm-hmm. I think I don't know what.
Standing Committee
Yeah.
on Finance.
Yes, and that's
Select.
Select Committee on Finance.
Standing Committee on Finance.
Expressing our, what is it, the concern for that they put in place adequate and sustained funding for public education.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I did second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Are you happy to have that in a similar format to Janice's letter? There's a motion we passed at the meeting last night, because if you say no, you're going to get tasked with writing.
With writing it, well, I wouldn't, yeah. I mean, I think that a letter has more impact if we put a little bit of preamble and some weight in it. I could work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Madam Chair, I do appreciate the zeal of getting things done, but I don't think we can sort of apply rules as we see fit, and we at least have to call the question of whether we should continue.
There's one more item left, and then an opportunity for 2 items. So, okay, if you would like to make a motion, somebody would like to make a motion to extend the meeting? All those in favor? No one is opposed. Thank you. We will try to make this quick. Janice, the Watchet Friendship Center letter.
I make a motion the board write a letter of support.
Second.
Supporting them getting their money.
Do you have a second?
Yeah, second it.
Anyone want to speak to this?
I think a letter to support in principle is a good idea. I think it is. I mean, I think to fully get full bore behind something that requests a certain amount of dollars, I think it does warrant a larger conversation. So if it's just a response to a letter, then I think in principle, yes, we support it. And so I'm comfortable with that.
Any comments? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. CDC, ABC ESIS letter. Janice?
The reason why I wrote this on the agenda was that I went to provincial council. It's something that I could use from our district with proof that our district is one of those districts that are having a problem. And I thank Steve for writing it. And also, as with our letter to the minister explained frustration, we've got proof that yes, it does exist in our district. We are frustrated, and it's time to get the system fixed. So that was the intent of having the letter on the agenda tonight. We're going to relate to address the issue.
Huh?
So can I just confirm, because Sherry, you mentioned earlier in the evening, you referenced the PCC's challenges that we're having. So my assumption is that you're working as collaboratively as you are able with district staff to try to resolve these things. So this isn't a circumstance where one group sees it one way and another group sees it another way. There's a recognition that there's a challenge. Thank you.
Information received and filed, I guess.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor, second? Fran?
Question. The request about directing senior staff to take any and all steps possible up to and including the building annual fees. Is there any downside to us doing that?
Lynn is the right person.
It'd be really great if we could do that, but we can't, they just take it. Sorry.
You don't get that, but they just take it all.
Okay, any other discussion regarding this? Okay, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Well, we have an opportunity, I think, for a few minutes to take some questions from the public. Welcome back, Shelley. You're first.
I just wanted to follow up on a question that I asked you just maybe about before, so I was wondering if you had this answer this time. And you stated that you had met, regarding the operational review, that you had met with Gordon Scott. Was this before the RFP or after?
Before.
And where was this meeting held?
In the community.
So it was not held at the board office?
No.
Were any board staff?
No, they weren't. What had happened was when we first got elected, we had heard pretty clearly from the community that there were some concerns with respect to the operations in the district. And we took those concerns quite seriously, and we thought that we ought to go about looking into that and seeing if there was any sort of merit to the things that we'd heard out in the community. So something that we had heard would be a way to do this would be to engage in an operational review.
If you met with Gordon Scott and his company, did you meet with the other people who applied?
Yes.
In the same manner? In the same manner before the RFP like you did with Scott?
No, we did not. What happened was that we weren't entirely sure what the scope of an operational review would be and what that would do for us. So we did meet with Mr. Sprott in order to find out sort of generic information.
This is an unconventional meeting with somebody before an RFP and then having him submit it and then him being awarded the contract, not
That's not.
giving the equal opportunities to the other person.
That's not what happened, so I'll just like to continue so that I can answer your question fully. So we did meet with him to receive some information, generic information about what an operational review was. And we thought that it sounded like a good idea, and we decided to proceed with it. What we did was we tasked, if you check back, we've made it public, all the discussion and dates and so forth on how this went. We made a referral to our finance committee in order to develop the RFP for that operational review. And the people that sit on the committee are these two trustees, Danny and Corrine, and Len sits on there, and our former trustee, Lori Fowler, also sat on that committee. So they had a discussion and developed what the RFP would be, and then that was sent out. My understanding is that if you engage a firm for a contract for services for under $100,000, you don't actually need to do an RFP. But something that we did was we put it out there because we wanted to see who was out there and available to do this kind of work. I'm not sure exactly. No, okay, they weren't. Wednesday, they weren't. So what happened was, around June of last year, I had also sent an email out to our board chair's listserv to see if other districts had engaged in any sort of operational review from an independent third party, and found out actually that from the responders that nobody had. So that was kind of interesting to me. So we did receive a number of responses. Can I say how many, Len? We got 9 responses. And at some point in there, we wondered if we had done something improper by consulting with, I shouldn't say consulting, by obtaining information from Gordon Sprott regarding what an operational review was. So we actually got a legal opinion on that. And what we were advised was to exclude him from the process of continuing with the considering him to do the phase 1, the operational review. We would actually be doing something more wrong. And so we realized at the time, too late, that what we had done might be poor optics. And so we sought to try to remedy that by getting a legal opinion. We did that and proceeded eventually to hire him. But what they did tell us was that we really needed to give the other firms an opportunity to present to us. And so the 3 people that were shortlisted were all given an opportunity to present to the board what they would do. And from that, the board made a selection. We did select Sprott Consulting. I don't think that it's probably proper for me to tell you any specifics of who else we interviewed or what the costs were, but under our purchasing policy, we have an obligation to ensure that anybody that we engage for services, that we're getting the best value for the dollar for taxpayers. What I could say is as Sprott Consulting were local, and so there wasn't a lot of travel expenses, so that was quite attractive to us. That kept the cost down quite a bit, and it did allow for them to do a lot of interviews with 29 people altogether to contribute to the operational review. So I guess in hindsight, we had heard what the community had to say. We wanted to move forward with finding a way to address the community's concerns with regards to operations in the district. We did the best we could. In hindsight, we probably shouldn't have talked to a firm before we proceeded to have the operational review. And I think we've learned by that. We have forwarded our purchasing policy to our finance, or to the policy committee for further discussion. And I don't know what else to say. Anyone else?
As far as the closure process, for Brooklyn, then things, who and how many people do you want to see on this committee? And I think we just like, because there's lots of notice for those meetings, and the child care will again be provided.
I think that Mary Ann McCrae will be coordinating all of that, and if you have any comments or so forth, I think she would welcome hearing from you, and I'm sure she'll somehow make contact. Sherry?
The structure of the committee is public policy. It's my intention at this point in time to review the policy and also participate in the public process in the past. You would expect to see something very similar, not exactly the same in terms of structure. The community is well versed in the process, and it's not intending in any way, unless we got feedback that is the otherwise, we do not follow the same process. So we'll be asking for representatives, we'll be asking the department to representatives, Mary Ann and I will discussing today, talking to your community, and here that you need time to notice is always important, and that there's a flow in that process that you gain momentum in terms of consultation. We'll build those days around getting that flow moving so that people become, we've seen it work well when you've got the same people at the table, and you're talking to some right into your work with the community and back. And that's our intention. So we certainly like to hear from the community through you, particularly and at the past about what it is that you're thinking makes it look like and what it means. Please feel free to indicate that.
Ellie?
I have a concern with the modulars for the elevators and curtains, especially at Round Road. Just in discussion with Pat, is that we are receiving 2. The discussion is whether we actually need them or if we have sufficient space in the school. That's been a great discussion. There's also one of the locations is the garden club area, which then will be an additional cost. We've been told that we can just relocate it. But I'm just wondering, is it possible to take another look at the financial implications of putting 2 modules at a school that popular opinion is they don't need them?
You okay to answer?
I think that might be, pretty difficult at this point in time, to actually revisit that one. I think the projections support just in terms of the number of students we have, and it's just somewhat higher grades.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm sorry, I just moved here last week, so I apologize if these are really obvious questions, but when Brooklyn Elementary does eventually close, and where those students will go?
Well, it's not a foregone conclusion that Brooklyn Elementary will close, so there has to be a fair process where we consider where they would go. There will be a report written that would detail all of that information, and I believe that, is that Mary Ann going to write that, or are you writing that, Len? Do you write that report? Okay, just trying to look for opportunities for you to, delegate, and not do everything like Glenn did such a bang-up job. So yeah, there will be a report released in due course that details all that information.
Maybe I'll just do a very quick overview of the process. The process is that now that the board has put forward a motion that will engage in the closure process, the activity of the closure process is really the consultation with the community. And Mary Ann McCrae, you've heard about it, she will be the facilitator of that consultation. We'll gather all of that consultation together and shape it into a report to the superintendent of schools, who then, in consultation with the secretary treasurer around all of those kinds of details about space and capacity and all those things, we'll add that information to my report, and the superintendent usually makes a recommendation to the board about closure, not closure, where they might move, where they might not move. All of that is only a recommendation to the board. The board engages in observation of the process and probably in a public meeting at some point in discussion about their thoughts and ideas about the information they received and what was observed, and the board makes a decision about closure and certainly makes a decision from there based on their thoughts and ideas about if there was a closure, where those students would be located. Because there's a piece in the closure process that speaks to the usage of the buildings that are either closing or perhaps even receiving students.
If I might, Shelley, I just have one follow-up thing to say with respect to your question about the operational review. I just would like to say that I think generally the board is happy that we undertook that, because it did affirm that management is doing a pretty good job in many areas, and many of the concerns in the community were not substantiated. I can think of the international student program, for example. There were concerns with respect to that, and so that report did a good job of taking a look at that and finding that it was a good program and serving us well. So, anyone else? Steve?
Just that there were 3 months sitting in front of me, and they all had to leave for various reasons, and I heard that the chance to voice what they want. They're all the slow months is live in the south part of our catchment, and made a choice at some point along the way to become digital now. We'll have to dilemma as to how to get them there. And I'm looking for some assurances that they'll have buses through it this year. The point I think they wanted to make was that their kids need to go to school somewhere. And if the transportation is not available to this health, then they need to go to what their catchment school would be, which would be Vandy. 45 students who will still need to catch a bus and will need to go to a school that doesn't have the room to accommodate them. And that's what they still left me with a note that they wish that I shared that with you.
Thank you for sharing it, and I'm sure that the review will look at the needs of students and see what seems to make sense. Okay, thank you very much. I take a motion to adjourn now.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much.